You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Falling Skies After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Falling Skies After Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is your president speaking. Bing is for doing. We're here doing episode 3 of season 3, Falling Skies, called Badlands. I am not the president. I am your host, Phil Svitek. But I do have the president with me.
Oh, I was going to say vice president, but that's okay. I'll take president.
Well, apparently there's 2 presidents. I have Nando Velasquez with me.
Thanks a lot. Hi, everybody. How you doing?
Doing good. Very exciting episode. False sense of security. We kind of talked about kind of things settling in. And, tonight's message in Tom's speech was everyday matters. And boy, did it ever.
It mattered today for some people in particular, yeah.
A lot of people, So, but let's start off with, someone who did lose their life today. Crazy Lee, as she is also called.
That day did matter for her, yeah. Crazy Lee. Craze going to the bathroom, putting her snow tires on, which I thought was just slang for a jacket, but really her bulletproof vest was really snow tires, which was kind of cool. And getting shot by a sniper. And this is the second week in a row that a loyal soldier, someone loyal to the Second Mass, loyal to Tom, but also loyal to Pope, one of Pope's berserker crew, loses a life. So this is definitely wearing on people. I think that they are losing people. These are not necessarily characters that we know really well, other than the fact that they have the occasional line or two and they're in Pope's posse, but they really give them a very fitting tribute.
Here's the thing, and it's also made more significant because of Tom's son.
Yeah, because
he's very much involved.
Matt was very much involved. Well, first he was trying to be a peeping Tom. I was trying to wonder half the time if he wanted her to live because he might want to have another chance to take a look at her if she was ever doing something. But no, I'm sure he was more sincere than that. That's just my mind. But obviously this has an effect on Tom's son Matt, who gets to witness this and gets to see what was pretty much it was a scene that kind of unnerved both of us, considering I
couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's on TNT. Just seeing that nail, well, not nail, that screw, that large rod go through her skull in through the back and out through the front.
And it was just made, it was worsened by the fact that she didn't feel anything. You know what I mean? If she had felt something and was reacting accordingly, then I would have bought it. But the fact that
no
she just
pain.
Exactly. So I can't see anything. That's your only reaction to this whole thing. That's why it didn't sit well with me.
I think that freaked me out. I would imagine, just imagining that happening to you. You don't know what's going on. You just know you can't move and you can't see.
Yeah.
And you don't know why.
But again, if someone tells you have a rod in your head, I would imagine you feel it. You're like, oh, well, there's something in my lower cortex.
Yeah, I think if someone told me I had a rod in my head and I didn't even have one, I'd probably say, oh my God, the visualization of it would make me freak out more than she's a trooper, though. She was pretty much giving her eulogy while he was using a hacksaw to try, while Pope was using a hacksaw to free her. She was trying to tell him the story about the dog and saying, sometimes it's just your time.
Yeah. And what I liked about Pope, there was 3 beats with this. There was he was joking like, oh, luckily your vest saved you, and then he finds that, okay, there's something worse here.
Yeah.
And so he becomes kind of sympathetic to the whole situation, and yet once Matt comes back, he returns to being joking again.
Yeah.
And for the sake of like, hey, do you have a point? You know what I mean? Who does that? But I like that Pope at the end of the day is still going to be strong for the people he needs to be strong for. Because, you know what I mean? He could have freaked out and things like that. I mean, especially as he's hacksawing this whole thing. But he lightened the mood, which
I
is
would
nice to
say
see.
I would say it was a very unselfish moment for
Yeah.
Pope. He could have very easily just complained and whined and just said, see, this is why. I mean, he obviously had that speech with Tom where he said, this is your fault. It's not the aliens' fault. This is your fault. But he could have as easily done that in front of Craze while she's trapped, stuck in that spot, and with Matt there. He could have totally bitched and complained about Matt's dad to Matt.
But also, I will give Pope his credit, and I will say this. He knows who he needs to complain to, ultimately.
Yeah.
You know, because, okay, so he complains to Matt, and he complains to Craze. It doesn't get him the result he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, he does what's necessary, and then, yes, he speaks out to Tom about it, because that's the guy to talk to about it.
Yeah. But I think it does show a lot of growth
Yeah.
in Pope. And again, this character, I mean, I predicted in the last episode that we did just a couple hours ago, but I really do see this character becoming more than just a regular foil for Tom, but maybe a rival, politically speaking, or, politically speaking, pretty much.
And especially if he wins the kids over.
Oh, yeah. Just imagine. It does seem, even from the beginning, before this whole thing happened, just the fact that Matt is hanging out with Pope. There was a little, I can't remember, I didn't write the line down at the time, but there was a little interaction, I think, right before Craze got shot.
Like, you'd make a good thief and things like that.
That's what it was. I was trying to remember what it was. Exactly. And and he lit up.
Yeah.
He lit up when Pope said that. Well, first of all, his dad wants Matt to go to school, and you heard him talking to Ben saying, if I really wanted to go to school, I would have stayed at home.
Yeah.
When they were doing those really cool riddles that we were trying to figure out the riddles too, which was kind of funny.
He, she, heroin, something.
I was wondering if that's just something Harness kids are just smarter than us too. I don't know, but
I'm never good at those. But anyway.
But yeah, so I mean, Tom wants Matt to study, and we said how Matt was listening. And it seemed like Matt got it through his head, but here comes Matt. And I think it's just the adrenaline rush of being on a mission like that. He loves that. And Pope acknowledges him and says, you could be a good thief. So he's giving him credit, and he's acknowledging him. So, of course, I think that there's definitely going to be a little bit of a fight between, a little triangle between Tom's kids and Pope and Tom.
Yeah, and I think it goes kind of without saying to an extent, but for Matt, I think, you know, anytime there's a situation where everybody's talking about it, you don't want to be left out. Mm-hmm. He's curious about it, so he wants to see it for himself. And third, as you were mentioning, he's getting the acknowledgement for all of this. Mm-hmm. And in school, he's not really being like who says to him, "You're a smart kid." No one's saying to that. So again, I think it's all those things coupled together of like why he is there.
You know, his dad probably could tell him he's smart, but his dad's busy being.
Would he be lying?
I don't know if his dad would be lying. I mean, but the way a parent usually says "good job" when you do something, but that's a parent who's paying attention to his son. That's not a parent who's playing president of the United States, of the new United States of America, and who's busy and whose time is very fragmented right now.
And also not to get too deep into this. You know, speaking of attention seeking, right? So what gains him the attention if he did good in school or if he's out in the battlefield? It seems like every time he gets attention from his father when he's out in the battlefield.
That's true too. That's a very good point as well, because that's more instant gratification when he comes back from a mission and he survives, he's alive, and he does the job that he's supposed to do, as opposed to learning something in school and maybe taking a test 2 weeks down the line, like you know. You usually do in school. Yeah. You take a test eventually, and then that's when your parents usually end up knowing if you're doing really good or really bad. When you have a report card and you have to bring it home, and if you have a really bad grade, you kind of like try and hide it.
Yeah.
So,
but you know, kind of to that point, not to get too fully into this just yet, but it's interesting how Tom acknowledges the fact that he needs to take a deeper role as a father and as a husband.
Yeah. And Tom definitely, he sees that. And again, it's funny because ever since I brought up just the struggle between the two, you always seem to see the scenes, even like a scene where he's talking to Anne and then someone barges in and says, you know, sniper's awake. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm talking to my wife, I'm talking to Anne. So you see those moments come to play where he's focused on one thing and the other aspect of his life is pulling at him too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 25 hours, 8 days a week. I like to round up 30 and 10, baby. 30 and 10.
Yeah. You know, base of 10. So just round up.
Yeah.
Totally.
But
again, really sad for Craze. and probably sad for Matt because a female figure he looked up to in certain ways.
Here's the thing that sucks. I mean, obviously, a very beautiful moment between her and Pope, but also, I don't know. There's just something about Matt's in the kind of waiting area or whatever, but the fact that he missed out on that moment, I don't know. I think he could find some sort of solace in that. I don't know. I think
Didn't get to see her pass.
Yeah, I think it's going to mess him up a lot more.
If he was there, I think it totally would mess him up a lot more. It was kind of the respectful thing to do to have her pass away while he wasn't in the room. So,
I don't know. I go back and forth on that, but I don't know.
I don't know. It's TNT. It's a bit of a family. This is still kind of a family drama.
I think because what was his? Obviously we can only speculate on what the last image he has of her, or what the last message. I mean, the thing that sucks. It would have been nice. He's left with that nugget. She says to him like, "Hey, basically, I want to die," and he prevented her from dying for obviously, and that was his choice. But it's now again. I'd like to see maybe he's going to be faced with that decision. Okay, I wanted to save her, but she died anyway.
Yeah, that's very possible. But I do like the message that Matt probably got from Pope, which was Pope. I think Pope saw in that speech about the dog that Craze was saying, just put me out of my misery right now. And then Pope looked right at Matt and just decided to save her anyway. And she went on her own terms, so to speak. Still, she eventually went with some respect, but the imagery of Matt knowing that people aren't going to give up on you, that you should keep fighting for your life, even if you're about to give up, that there's still going to be someone there to save you, help you. I think that's a more powerful message that Matt should take out of that. Yeah.
And we had an order for this, but let's go into the crazy. Let's stick to the family. Let's go into the crazy baby.
Sure, why not?
Interesting. We kind of. We speculated on when this might come out to Tom, and obviously, so third episode. I think we were both wrong.
We were both wrong. I mean, there's still a lot more to play, and I don't think Crazy Alexis has really done anything. Hasn't done much more other than say the word "don't" and pull away.
Ultimately, that was the funny moment of all of this when she's explaining it to her. Anne is, and she's saying, she said "don't," then she said "mommy." And then she got up. I think it was meant to be comedic because that's what it was.
Well, exactly. Lourdes is looking at her like, what's wrong with you? There's nothing really that crazy out of that.
And for me, out of this whole storyline in tonight, the thing that I found most interesting was the fact that Tom, whether obviously him as president is one role, but him as father is still, the way he treats it is in very much the same way he treats being a president, which is just through strategy.
Yeah.
And is by sending her in and saying, ultimately it's revealed that he sent her to watch over Anne.
Well, I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to find the fastest possible way of dealing with this issue. And again, Lourdes thinks she's a little bit crazy, and he doesn't want to go there and say, "Anne, you're crazy," but he also needs to deal this right away. So it's a little bit. I wouldn't say it's a blunt strategy that he's using, but he's trying to win her over with certain words and calm her down, and he assumes this will go, Lourdes thought this was postpartum depression. So he just figures, okay, she needs a little bit of time. I just need to be there to support her and to say the right things, and then I can go back to my job.
Yeah.
And that's the way he's looking at it right now. And I could send Lourdes over to take care. I guess, it's pretty smart of Anne to figure out that Lourdes was there only because Tom said so.
But again, just word of advice, guys, that doesn't work. You can't treat that the same way you treat being a president. It just does not.
You can't bring your work home with you.
It just doesn't work.
You can't.
Unfortunately. But obviously a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about is kind of more predictions because of, the information that this seems to be the primary storyline of next week's episode. A little bit in terms of this baby.
Yeah, well, it seems to be a lot going on with the baby still, and it's good that it's good that it's finally gotten to a point where Anne is speaking out a little bit to it, to Lord, at least now Lourdes knows about it, and we did see in the previews for next week that they, I guess, discovered DNA, alien DNA mixed in with human blood, in the human blood, I suppose. So we will see more and more. Maybe you're right. I guess it will come out more and more before the end of the season.
You know what's interesting? It's, going back to how Tom's treating the baby, just his description of what a human being is. 10 fingers, 10 toes, perfect baby, and all that.
I did love that speech And then you see the reveal, and Anne standing there right there. You know, the whole time she's sitting down nearby, going, "I'm not crazy. Stop talking to the baby like that. I'm not crazy. I really know what I saw."
Yeah.
So,
and it's quite unfortunate. You know, this baby was supposed to be like the Liberty Tree, a symbol of hope. and you know, as she says, and unfortunately, it's. What am I trying to exactly say here? It's just one of those things where it just sucks because, you know, you're not necessarily given a choice in this matter. You know, of the child you're kind of given and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it is unfortunate that this has to be what was supposed to be such a joyous thing is now the symbol of just evil, to an extent.
kind of. I mean, because again, I've referred to Alexis a little bit as Damien, a little bit like Omen Baby, because she is a little creepy.
Yeah.
So it is turning into a perverse.
And it's also right there, you know, it's very Hitchcock style, where it's, you know, it's someone who you A, wouldn't expect, B, they're right at your doorstep. Even more so than that, they're in your bedroom.
Oh God, yeah.
You know?
Staring at you from their crib, just looking right at you really weirdly.
Yeah.
So
it's a weird kind of message of how this battle ultimately is being fought. You know what I mean? It's not just external forces, but it's right there.
Well, yeah, they're battling the forces that are outside of Charleston. But here is an example of, besides the mole, here's an example of Tom's life being turned upside down from within. Yeah. You know, with his family life.
And, you know, last week's plan was, okay, they're not guarding, you know, the rear because, you know, it'd be crazy to go through there, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously they're not really guarding this side of everyone's life, is because they're obviously doing the perimeter. They got other worries. Every man, woman, child that can fill a sandbag is doing their part, you know, in this war. And so that's interesting to see. And obviously Hal's kind of another representation of that, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I like it.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what they need to kind of stir the pot a little bit with Tom's presidency, just to have him. He's inexperienced as he is, but he's a very capable leader. But you definitely need to up the difficulty of his presidency, and this is definitely it's going to add more and more to it, dealing with a wife that he thinks may be a little off, and a baby that might not be weird too. You know,
I don't know if this is because of the baby, and you know, for me, it's not. This is just hugely insensitive, and then there could be something more to this. But when you know, he's trying to be sensitive to her by telling her, you know, this is a 25-hour, 8-day-a-week job. She's like, you knew what you were getting into. Not we knew what we were getting into. We'll handle it. But it's very resentful in the tone that she does.
Yeah.
You know.
No, you pointed that. You know, come to think of it, you did point that out originally when we were watching it, and that is a really good point. That
because again, you would have said we. Yeah. We knew what we were getting into, because that shows support.
Well, and you know, it's interesting because Anne, I think in the first 2 seasons, has been a rock when it's come to her. She's been a very strong person. She's a very strong-willed person. So this is really her losing it. This is the first time I think we've really seen her losing it. It's been a surprise with her, because I think she's always been very, very steady as a doctor. She's been a little inexperienced and she's been challenged herself, but this is totally something different. This is something that's turning mental.
It is.
She's not crazy, maybe, but about the baby. I'm making runs, but she's definitely going a little mental here. Either way.
And you know, it's interesting to see that side of her when she says, you know, I can't break, or whatever she, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely interesting, and it's also going to be interesting, you know, how the baby what. Yeah. Well, this presents now a whole different thing. If the baby was 100% tested, or whatever it goes through when it's born, and the fact that they didn't find anything now, you know, as we get into predictions, we'll speculate, okay, they found DNA. Yeah. Then how is it mutating, or whatever the term may be? Mm-hmm. So.
Well, I mean, again, I think I mentioned in our first episode, it probably comes back to the finale when they were all trapped by Karen, and they were all pretty much hanging by those ropes, those alien ropes or whatever. So that something must have gone inside of her. Yeah. Eye worm. Well, I guess if it was an eye worm, we'd know. But definitely something's happened to her. Something has changed from that,
and something that they're unable to detect currently. Yeah. Without digging deeper.
Possibly a new weapon of some sort, or a new type of type of alien bug.
Well, speaking of other types, let's talk about President Hathaway. Who's President Hathaway?
Well, yeah, I mean, even getting into President Hathaway, let's talk about this sniper.
Catherine Fisher,
who it was very, very interesting seeing the way this whole thing developed, because when the sniper attack happened with Crazy Lee at the beginning, I guess everyone was assuming it was probably a harnessed kid or it was a skidder. And then to see that first person down and to see it was an adult male, that was the first surprise. And then the fact that they weren't responding to the other humans. You know, when Tom was yelling that they're humans too, they shouldn't be fighting against each other. And they finally, Weaver finally got a stinger on our sniper and knocked her unconscious. She admitted that she works for the president of the United States, the real president of the United States, President Hathaway. So this is incredibly another interesting thing. There's another faction out there that's not alien, that's human, and they might not be on their side.
And you know, and it's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's going to kind of emulate the Cold War to an extent, but you know, Tom's already trying to get a summit out of this. I gotta meet Hathaway.
He's a diplomat at heart. Yeah, he's a diplomat at heart. But it is really interesting to wonder: is Catherine telling the truth? Is this just a line? Is she brainwashed?
Could be.
Is this have something to do with the mole?
Perhaps.
I mean, the mole's revealing information to the aliens, and Catherine has said the only good alien's a dead alien. But again, I mean, it really comes down to, is she telling the truth? Is she lying? What's going on with her?
I think for me, she is telling the truth, and you know, if you notice, it's very quick. But in the end, you know, as the planes are kind of overhead, and you know, we see tragedy on this glorious day, she's like, "Let me fight."
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good telling sign that she is telling the truth and that she really wants to kill all aliens. I think the question is, if you let her go, is she going to shoot aliens on both sides, or is she just going to shoot the attacking aliens?
She shoot everyone. You know, I think she got it confused. She was shooting at humans.
You know, it's funny. I know I mentioned Battlestar Galactica our last show. She reminds me of Starbuck. She's very much like a Starbuck character. So I'm really curious to see if this is a recurring character, if she stays in a little bit longer, if she's just here for a couple of episodes just to introduce this whole President Hathaway, other faction that's from the apparent real United States of America.
Yeah, I think she'll serve more of that purpose if she is telling the truth. Now, if she's lying, then she can have a bigger role.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I see.
Well, and then the other question is, too, if this is the real United States of America, I don't believe, I can't recall if in the first two seasons the actual president was ever referred to as President Hathaway. But if this is the actual president that was perhaps president 2 years ago when the aliens invaded, or the acting president that was legitimately in office of some sort when the attacks came, if they're going to have an anti-alien stance and they're going to be against the second mass and against this new United States of America because of their collaboration with the Volm.
Now you're getting to the Revolutionary War. you got Britain and New England.
Yeah, well, that's what it seems to come from. What side is the real United States of America to take? Will Tom be able to convince them that working with the Volm benefits them? And again, if right now it seems like this sniper has a very similar attitude, although she's a lot more physical about it, than in comparison to Pope. Pope doesn't trust the Volm. And Catherine definitely wants to shoot the Volm any chance she gets because, again, the only good alien's a dead alien. So it'd be really interesting to see if she gets freed and she's hanging out there. She might end up becoming a berserker or just hanging out with Pope.
I think she would. I think she would definitely hang out with Pope, and that is, going back to his speech with Tom, the fact that they're doing all these things and they have no information. So basically they're blind followers to all of this.
Yeah.
And, they're taking a huge leap of faith, whereas it seems like, at least in Catherine Fisher's camp, they kind of, have a little bit more information. Now, it could obviously be propaganda of, hey, kill all the aliens, but at least that's something, again, with Pope, that's more solid than, like, okay, just do what you're told.
Yeah.
And call that freedom.
Absolutely.
So...
I think Pope's just looking for an excuse to pop an alien anyway. So if he ends up talking with Catherine, it's like you're gonna have two against Tom for sure.
But at the same, you know what? Here's where. Let me ask you this: will he feel a certain hatred for her because of what she did?
Oh, that's true too. You know what? I kind of overlooked the fact because remember, one of Pope's berserkers was going to shoot her when Tom said don't, and he said she killed Craze. So I'm sure he would. I don't know. In this case, I think he might get over it because the bigger danger is the aliens. Mm-hmm. I think he would learn to forgive her because again, she's a soldier doing her duty. And he, you know what? And he blames Tom. He doesn't blame the sniper. He blames Tom.
That is true.
For the death.
Right.
So I could see him getting over this sniper, especially if it's going to help him get what he wants, which I think he definitely wants to alert everyone to get Tom out of office and probably alert everyone as to the real danger.
By the way, if Tom was smart, it would. Here's the thing: it would take a lot of strategy because of Pope's known misguidance or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if you really want to find Hathaway, have them join together. Pope and Catherine Fisher.
That would be smart.
You know, but obviously Pope would have to be followed in some sort of fashion. But that would lead you directly to him. Possibly. But more so than anyone else.
That's true. Although, Pope's kind of shown from the first episode that he's kind of likes being mayor of Popetown and having his bar. But you have a point. I think he would, to get answers, I think he'd be willing to take a chance and go out there.
Yeah.
If he was going with someone like Catherine to find out about this President Hathaway and what's going on with her camp, her troop, her nation, if you want to say that, yeah.
Well, all right, let's talk about the other.
Should we do a little segue into
Serial Buddies?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Let's talk Serial Buddies. There you go. That wasn't my burp, people. That was not my burp. That burp and this music is from Adventures of Serial Buddies, a new movie that I produced along with Kevin Undergaro, Maria Menounos, and John Comerford, actually, from right here at AfterBuzz TV. And a lot of AfterBuzz TV hosts and staff members were involved in the creation. And it is a movie out now on iTunes. It's available for download. It's basically the price of a Happy Meal. It's called Adventures of Serial Buddies, the first serial killer buddy comedy of all time, and it's very funny. Critics are calling it Dexter meets Dumb and Dumber.
I like that.
It's very funny. So as far away from Falling Skies as it could be. Just FYI. So if
you like a variety of things,
which I think ultimately sci-fi people, they like comedy too.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend it because I made it. But the encouraging thing is to see a lot of people who have already seen it to write amazing comments. Excuse me.
That was me. That was me, actually.
That was Nando's burp.
And perfect timing.
But it's got an amazing cast. You know what? How about this? I'm gonna be. I gotta get better adjectives, man. I gotta read more. I'm not gonna reveal the cast because you can either listen to episode 2 of our after show or tune in next week.
We say it a lot.
For episode 4 when I reveal the cast members.
But it is a really fun. I mean, a bunch of us saw it in theaters earlier this year.
Yeah.
And a bunch of us went on a nice group outing to support it, and it was really, really funny. It was really good. A lot of laughs.
There you go. Invite your friends, buy the movie on serialbuddies.com, and watch it and have a fun night. And you know what? It is appropriate for ladies, and you just might scoop some. Thank you, Steven.
Having fun with the music there.
All right.
Okay. So let's talk about Hal.
Let's talk about Hal.
It's about that point to talk about Hal, because we're still trying to figure out who this mole thing is, and Hal seems to have it all figured out already.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you know what? Maggie says it quite well. This is treason, but I don't know if she realizes that what she's about to commit is treason as well. If he is the mole.
That's true. By having him not reveal himself as the mole or his secret.
Yeah.
So, and this is another really interesting dynamic. Just seeing him leaving her at first and confessing what he finally figured out, which is he's sneaking away in the woods under Karen's power, supposedly, to sleep with her.
He didn't say that.
Oh no, he didn't say that. You know, you're right. He didn't say that. He's probably giving her information, which is probably code for what he's really giving. Well, I'm not going to get that, but yeah, revealing that to Maggie, and you know, she's a tough one, man. She just grabs him and throws him against the wall.
Look at here's the thing. You know, I love the costume that they gave her, because as soon as she walks in, she just looks so militant.
Yeah.
With those kind of very rugged boots, and you know, kind of the jacket tied around her, and obviously showing some of her tats, and it was just like, you know what? No, you're taking a seat. Listen to me. Here's the plan. So I like that. I like that.
I like a woman with some force like that. Yeah, totally.
I know.
Yeah.
He's got 2 women in his life with some force behind him.
I guess that's true. Yeah. You know what? Maybe it's a prediction. We're gonna have to see them go fighting in a season, fighting each other in this season. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it is a very interesting theory. He could be the mole. It makes perfect sense. I think. Were you thinking he was the mole at all? I didn't really put him.
To an extent, but here's the only flaw in that is that so when Arthur sees him, like, hey, do we have an appointment? He was standing up. Yeah. You know, and so that, again, I don't know if he would have noticed that was weird, but it should have been something weird. And I believe he was, the whole family was with Anne when she was giving birth. So that would have taken. There? I mean, he wasn't playing Monopoly yet. The Monopoly game was being brought out, but he wasn't playing Monopoly just yet.
I kind of thought the whole family was there, but I could be wrong. It's worth looking at again. So that is worth looking at. But that is a great point. I mean, if he was standing up, that would have probably been Arthur's first words. Like, oh my God, you're standing. Yeah, but he recognized this person, and he didn't seem really surprised.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I mean, it's good that he's not turning himself in.
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, it could either be the world's best idea or the world's worst idea. It remains to be seen.
Well, what if he gets caught and it's bad not just for him, it's bad for the whole family? What if he ends up being the mole, or they find out they're withholding information? I mean, this puts Tom in a really serious dilemma, whether or not to go against it, to actually follow the letter of the law, whatever law they might be creating in this new world, and try his son, or put him in jail, or do something even worse, or to hide his secret, or to protect him.
Well, here's the thing. You could use it to your ultimate benefit by, again, if the enemy doesn't know that you know, then, okay, start feeding false information, you know, that very few people know, have that be delivered, and then see where it takes you.
Yeah.
You know, but it's one of those things you have to play very close to the chest.
Well, you have to play very close to the chest, and that does sound like something Tom would do. Tom would work, I mean, based on historical facts and wars, he would try and do some disinformation. I mean, he tried doing that last week by not revealing the whole plot to take down that nuclear reactor. So it's possible. But don't forget, he's playing this game with his son. He would be giving his son false information and having his son go back to the enemy, putting himself at risk.
He's not at risk. He's getting laid.
If he gives the wrong information, you think he's going to still get laid? Come on. If he gives the wrong information, they'll probably do them.
Here's the thing. How could he give wrong information if he believes it is the right information? There's nothing, you know?
I guess that's true. But if they think he's lying, well, I guess if they think he's under their control, then I guess they're going to think he's telling the truth no matter what.
Yeah. If it goes that route, then, you know, everything we've been talking about in terms of Tom being a father and a decision he has to make, that's a very tough decision.
It still puts him at big risk. Yeah, it still puts him at big risk to send his son out there for any mission. And I think to do something like that, it still is risky, even though it still is risky. Yeah. There's always a chance that Karen might just keep him hostage, might just keep him there. He might never see his son again going out there. Who knows? So it would be an interesting dynamic. This is not just your ordinary possessed, citizen who's infected with some bug.
Yeah, but I would like to see that explored. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think there'll be some more exploration. It'll be really curious to see. But I think we both agree that I still don't believe he's the mole. I think it's just too obvious and too easy a theory to go there. It would be a real disappointment if it ended up being the case.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting if he figures out or Maggie figures out based on, you know, that fact. Because now, to an extent, you know, Maggie's mission becomes, okay, you have to either A, prove that he's the mole or disprove that he's the mole. One or the other.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be, I think she's going to actively seek that.
Do you think if he was a mole, you think she'd still protect him? Because she doesn't
possibly
believe him.
because I think she would ultimately because it's not his control. He may be the mole, but again, it's under a certain condition.
So she'd try and save him, or she'd try and get him out of that control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the Liberty Tree? I thought this. Here's the thing. Apart from the title,
Well, yeah,
which is not.
It's a little corny, the title. Yeah.
I'm sure it's no reference to. Anyway,
The Liberty Statue of Liberty, the Liberty Bell. I don't know.
nothing on
The WNBA team, the New York Liberty. I'm trying to think of other Liberty things. Liberty Mutual. Yeah, it was. I guess. You know,
I thought it was a good symbol between. You know, when Dan's talking with his daughter. I thought that was a good little moment.
Yeah.
You know, and very reflective of, you know what, everyone kind of serves a purpose within society.
Yeah, I like this character. I like Jane. I'm really glad that they brought her back in. And she just seemed to be in only 1 or 2 episodes, and then she went on her way. So I'm glad to see she's there. She's also a good grounding for Dan. You know, I've said this before because it's Spielberg, and Spielberg's all about creating stories for everybody, for all ages. And I think the fact that Falling Skies is on TNT, that also shows that. So we get to see these grounding moments, like you know, family moments. So this is a chance for us to see Dan. Dan was such a soldier in the first season, and he was losing it in the second season. And part of his whole story was that he lost his wife, he lost his family to find his daughter. And now that she has decided to stay with the new United States of America, even though she found her boyfriend from the first episode now of this season. So it's nice to see this moment and see him saying, I have something to fight for now, too, when he's talking to her. And you're right. I think everybody, again, it's like what I said our last show, is that something that's really appealing about this as opposed to some other sci-fi stuff. It's not just about the destruction and just trying to survive against impending odds. It's about trying to resurrect and trying to establish a new society. And it's really about growth. And what better... as hokey as it is, what better symbol of growth is there than a tree?
Yeah.
So
and the fact that it's ever growing as well.
Yeah.
You know, but the notion of that, I'm glad Tom spoke to it. You know, it's you can count all the things we've built and compare them to the things we've lost because they're going to be equal. You know what I mean? So as this, and the tree is representative of that. As this tree grows, it's going to be more beautiful, but that also means you just added basically all these dead people to it.
Yeah.
Sorry to put it so bluntly.
Well, I guess you got to have you got to put the lives that. I mean, a lot of memorials have that. So I guess the Liberty Tree is also considered a memorial in that sense when you're putting people's names on leaves.
Or a cheap cemetery.
A cheap version of a cemetery?
Yeah.
Just put them all under one tree.
Yeah.
There you go.
With a name tag. You know.
But, you know, it seems like every episode right now that Tom's president, he has to have this inspirational speech. So the commemoration of the 2-year anniversary, this being the 2-year anniversary of the alien invasion.
You know, it wasn't really brought up too much.
No.
In terms of how big this was going to be.
Yeah, it wasn't. It just seemed to happen. I think there was a reference to 2 years earlier in the episode, but not as an anniversary.
And said it, but it was, you know, it's one of those things where you just round up or down and call it 2 years.
Exactly. Like 2510.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, absolutely. But again, very inspirational speech, and obviously this man's creating. You know, Tom is a great orator. He's a good. This is definitely a better speech than he's had before. He seems to be very motivated by the death of Crazy Lee. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, he's coming into his own. But again, it's going to be really curious to see what happens, especially with this new clue that there's a president, Hathaway.
There's a new clue that there's obviously the attack, and then obviously the baby is just psycho.
What's really interesting about this episode too is, other than I guess Hal and Alexis, the oddities between those two. We didn't see Cochise at all this episode. We haven't seen Red Eye, any Skitters. We haven't seen any aliens at all. The whole thought of the snipers in the beginning of the episode was us thinking that it was possibly an alien or Har and his kid, but we didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
So this has been an episode that's really just been all about humans in a sci-fi world,
and that is quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I think without further ado, let's head into predictions because there's a lot to predict.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
And I think, well, they made the crux of it be about the new DNA and things like that, which I hate when you have this big cliffhanger of this big attack, and then in the preview, it's not even spoken to.
Yeah.
That's my immediate thought. Is like, okay, what happens now? Who was that? Who did that? Let's get some answers.
Yeah, I agree. That seemed to be the big cliffhanger, and I'm surprised they just gave away something like that so obvious about telling. Forgive us if people don't like watching the previews, but you usually can't help it when it's right after. That was the first thing that came out. It was like surprising, but I think we all assumed that there's got to be something wrong with this baby. That Anne is not 100% crazy. But the one scene I saw, it seems like something happens to Tom. Like he's struggling against some people, so it makes me wonder if maybe my prediction might be that Catherine gets let loose and Catherine takes Tom, or whether Tom goes willingly to see what's going on, because he's a fighting president. He's not going to put anyone else in danger that he wouldn't put himself in danger for first. And he's already announced the vice president. Yeah. Melina's vice president now, so might give him more reason to jump out. So I'm going to say he decides to be the one to go out there and find out this President Hathaway, and maybe he takes Catherine with him.
That could be the case. Yeah. It's interesting to me. I've always believed Anne, only for the reason with this show it's very much kind of third person. There's no subjective filmmaking, or like in horror movies, you kind of get that artifice where you're seeing it from someone's point of view, and we've never really gotten that. And they're certainly not indicating that with all these scenes with Anne. So I'm led to believe that this baby's crazy. It's out of his mind.
Crazy baby.
Crazy baby.
I love that. Crazy baby.
Hashtag crazy baby. Let's get that trending.
Hashtag crazy baby. Falling Skies. Let's do it.
So, all right. Thank you, guys. By the way, check out the new AfterBuzzTV.com website. It's your one-stop shop for everything. Let us know what you guys think. We've taken a lot of your input in the creation of it. So we want to make sure that it is 100% up to your guys' standards. So, whether you tweet us, email us, whatever, we'll be there. But everything's at AfterBuzz TV. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The email is actually info@AfterBuzzTV.com. But hey, you know what? Find that on the new website. In the meantime, you can also find Nando on the new website under the host section. But if you're too lazy, you can. I'm gonna
have to look at that thing too. But
hopefully you're on there. I think I'm included in your bio.
I want to make sure I'm on there. But if you want to look for me now, you can go on Twitter at Nando Vel, and I'm also on Instagram at Nando Vel.
And check him out on other shows such as Arrested Development, Defiance, Hannibal. He just wrapped The Following. And I'm sure some other ones that I'm missing.
Something else.
Thank you, Steven, for engineering in the booth. Catch him on Graceland every Thursday night at, I believe, 9 p.m. But that's why we built the new website, so you can check it out. Anyway, thank you all for listening. Tell a friend. Go download Adventures of Serial Buddies, but legally, of course. And until next week, we thank you.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.